Hello and welcome to Say Hi to the Future, Ingenious Thinkers, a podcast aimed at highlighting the human side of ingenuity. With me today is Parveen Dhupar, a seasoned brand strategist, serial entrepreneur, public speaker, author, and founder of BTI Brand Innovations. Parveen, welcome to Say Hi to the Future.
Hello, thank you, Ken. Looking forward to having this great conversation with you.
Yeah, me too. I mean, for the audience, you and I have known each other for a while now through Chamber of Commerce and business and whatnot. And you know what? You're a really wonderful entrepreneur. You've had incredible success. And I think the other thing that, I find a real testament to who an individual is that I know you, I know your team. I know that many of them have been there for quite some time, which shows that, a little bit about who you are. And it's not that they've been there and they're hiding in a cubicle waiting to retire. It's that they've been there because they're engaged, they're excited, they're given different challenges. So that's what we like to share with people here on Say Hi to the Future. So welcome again.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I have a strong belief on, on building a strong culture of A players, and I've been very fortunate to have built a strong team. And I always say that when you're building a team, everyone on that team needs to be a leader. There are no followers here. Everyone has to be a strong thinker, a strong communicator, no matter what role you're playing. It's so important, and I think when you empower people with that thinking, they step up. Right? It's very you'd be amazed how we're able to convert B players to A players when we give them that sort of power and trust.
I completely agree with you. And, over the years, there's sometimes you just see potential and you know that if they're given an opportunity and you coach and you work things through with them, some people can become incredible providers or contributors to your team. So I think with you, there's, I know you speak a lot about a positive outlook over your shoulder. I see loving it, living it.
Yeah.
Where does that come from? How has it helped you?
Yeah, so loving it, living it is my personal motto. And I always say, we have to start from a place of loving it, right? We have to love life first. If we can love life first, then we're able to live life. And this sort of philosophy came to me at a really early age of that realization that, we can't always control what happens to us, but we can absolutely control how we respond to it. Right. So, when someone says to me, what kind of day is it going to be? I always say it's going to be a great day. I never use the word good. To me, the good is a shitty 4-letter word. It's a word that should be thrown out of everyone's vocabulary, because when you set the bar at good, that means you're only going to achieve good. When you set the bar at great, then the possibilities are endless. Right. So, and I've had a lot of challenges through my life, highs and lows, and just so many obstacles. And I think through all of that, that's what's allowed me to live this sort of lifestyle and have this kind of mindset. Right. So, like I said, I wake up early every morning with that intention to set the day right and to focus on the things that I can control, and just being very grateful for it. And I bring a lot of energy to everything I do, and a lot of creativity to the work that I do. It's been one of the most powerful tools in my career. Even to that, I guess I can kind of share even the sense that when my kids were small, my kids are now 27 and 25, so they're not small anymore. They're men. But even when they were small, I would say to them every morning with lots of energy, what kind of day is it going to be? And they would respond back, it's going to be a great, beautiful, nice, cold, fun school day, something along that line. That ritual, that morning ritual, just kind of reminded me of that power of how to set that day. And I brought that into the office too, right? So building culture, you start off, why people have been here long term is because I bring that energy in here, right? I keep everyone excited. And I brought that in here, and I would do the same thing with my team. I'd say, what kind of day is it going to be? But they wouldn't have to say the word, give me a long descriptor like my kids. I just wanted them to say one word, a new word every day. It got to a point where they actually had a list of words, because I would catch up on the fact that they used that word the week before, and I want a new word. So it always kind of challenged them, and it was great. So just that simple question became that daily reminder that we are in control of our attitude, and it sets that foundation for positivity and a creative environment. So whether in life or business, to start that day with that intention, that's one of the most powerful tools that I've ever cultivated.
Hey, you know what? I hear you. I think it's a great approach. I'll also give you kudos for getting teenage boys when they were teenagers to do anything other than grunt and answer. Because I know that was my biggest challenge when they were teens, was to grunt isn't a word.
Yeah.
As an entrepreneur, and I get, we've both been entrepreneurs for decades now, and I get the positive attitude. I understand also the need for resilience, because, you wake up and it's going to be a great day, and then 10 minutes later, you think the world's, might be crashing down, and you got to keep going because at noon it might be great again. How do you build resilience into what you're saying? Because, you can say it's going to be great, and you know what, most days are, because we are entrepreneurs for a long time, so it has been pretty great. But what else do you do as an entrepreneur when things, they might be great, but they're wildly tough? Like, how did you get through some of those times?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, life is tough. Life is tough. I think, you know, when you grow up in an environment, being an immigrant, coming to a new country at a very young age, and knowing the sacrifice that your parents had made to come here, uh,
Hmm.
and there's four young kids that they have to, you know, feed and help nurture them to get to, become great human beings and give back to this world. You're very driven, right? So I'm very driven. So when you don't
Hmm.
have anything to begin with, or you have very little to begin with, you want everything. You
Hmm.
desire for more. You want more freedom, more creativity, more opportunity, and then it's like there's nothing is going to hold me back. Is what I'm trying to say here. So
Okay.
everything is going to be better than where I was, if that kind of answers your question, right? So I
Yep.
didn't have anything. So when I was 13, I was working multiple jobs, and I was hustling and finding other ways to make more money on the side so that we can support the family. And I'm the third of, we're four siblings. I was the third of the boys, and I had a sister who was 5 years younger than me. I have a sister who's 5 years
Hmm.
younger than me. And all of us, the boys, we all worked part-time jobs, and we all gave uh, the big portion of that to our parents to help pay down the mortgage, right? So we were very, very driven. And I was a hustler. I was a talker. I was just always doing things. I always had a knack for sales and business, and I really used that to my advantage, right? So I don't get discouraged. I'm very, very um, positive thinker. I embrace fear. I know I'm going to fail. I have had many, many failures, but the key is to get up and try again, right? Learn from that failure. Just keep moving. And it's important to have those failures, because without those failures, you're not going to have those successes. If everyone's had successes, I want to know what that formula is, because Steve Jobs had failures. Elon Musk had failures. Bezos had failures. All these great people have had multiple failures. We only talk about the great things. It's really important to understand that they did not give up. They kept moving forward. And I kept moving forward. So I've been fortunate from that perspective, having that mindset. And secondly, other than just embracing failures, having great people around you. You are the product of the five most closest people around you. And I've always made sure that I had great role models and great mentors. I've been very active in peer-to-peer mentoring organizations like EO, Entrepreneurs Organization, YPO is another great organization. Just being involved in those places and hearing the journeys of other entrepreneurs just juices me up.
Mm-hmm.
So there is nothing that's going to stop me from continuing on towards my goal of ultimate freedom.
Well, I think that's very well said, and I really do agree. I mean, other than it's an incredible story as you tell it through. Um, Getting out of the office and learning from others, it's also the number one thing I think I've done, and I tell others. I mean, you can't get another perspective until you tilt your head up from the computer. Get out, meet people, and become part of those organizations. So my first failure, I was 10 years old. My grandmother needed to have her carpets cleaned, and they had just introduced those self-cleaning things you could rent at food stores.
Yeah.
So I said to her, I'm gonna do it. And I set a price, and my dad drove me to pick the machine up, and I went, I did it. Her carpets, they were kind of like sandpaper when I was done. And we worked out a deal. Obviously, I wasn't getting paid, and I had to figure out how to pay my dad back for renting the machine and to pay for a professional cleaner. So I worked my way out of debt through carpet through newspaper things. So I was taught very early by my grandmother, who's my grandfather was an entrepreneur, came here as an immigrant too. Um, what it means to get back up in the morning and learn from what you did. I never cleaned carpets again. I couldn't afford to, but you talk about mentors and things that you remember. I mean, we're talking, 47 years ago now. And the lessons that I learned just from both my father and grandmother in that day, they've
Yeah.
stuck with me.
Yeah.
When you do things wrong, fess up to it, deal with it, and push forward.
Yeah. Yeah. And be humble, right? Like there's a saying from Bezos, right? About stay humble, act as if you can't afford the bread until they find out you own the bakery, right? So just be
Right.
humble, right? I think that's
Yeah.
also really important. Yeah.
So tell us a bit about BTI, Brand Innovations. How did that come about? How did you put your creativity to work this way?
Well, I mean, I'm a creative to begin with. My education is in packaging and graphic design. Ever since I was small, I'd be sitting there drawing pictures, and my parents would be watching TV, and I'd have my sketch pad and I'd be drawing them. So I always had that sort of passion for art. So that was always there, and I always had a passion for storytelling because I'd always be writing. I'd be writing and journaling since I was 8 years old. And I think those two combined together led me towards my journey of pursuing the arts. So my schooling was in packaging graphic design at Humber College. While I was in school, again, I was freelancing. I knew that whatever I was going to do, I was going to do for myself. Right. I still remember the speech that our instructor gave on the very first day of art school. He said, Don Watts is the founder. He actually is the innovator of the Loblaw's No Name brand, right? And
Yeah.
Don Watt had that account. And anytime Don Watt picked up his pen, he goes, "That's $10,000." So I remember him saying that to me, is Don Watt, $10,000 just to pick up a pen. And went, wow, okay. So that said to me, well, I'm not going to earn $10,000 working for somebody by picking up a pen. I know I'm going to have to do this for myself. So freelancing was something I did on the side while I was in school. I actually freelanced for some of the teachers, right? So creating design, helping them with their projects, and that spirit of constantly looking for opportunities never left me. So, I graduated. I found my first job. It was actually one of the instructors that hired me. He was a creative director at an agency. brought me on there as a designer. And fortunately, the Mac was a new thing. And, I started playing around with it. Nobody knew what to do with it. And I'm figuring out how we can actually utilize this in the creative industry. And the college found out. So the very next year, I actually was asked to come back and teach at Humber College. So I was teaching there and created a program around computer graphics and wrote the whole curriculum. And I was teaching there for a good 6-7 years, part-time while working. So the first year, I worked for 1 year for that agency, got laid off, started, just going deeper into my own business. I didn't want to work for anybody.
Yeah.
I got that experience. I understood how an agency works. I understood how to price jobs. Learned a lot from John Maravino. And I still remember when John called me in, he said,
Yeah.
Parveen, I know that you were one of the last people I hired. We're not doing great. And I have to unfortunately let you go, but I'm also worried that you're going to be one of my competitors. Right. And I was driven by him just saying that to me too. So I'm a great listener. I focus in on key things and I'm driven by those kind of messages. So I started just freelancing, picking up accounts and landed Highland Farms. It was a grocery store chain, and started doing their weekly flyers. And at that time we were just Dhupar Communications. It was just me, my last name. So I'm kind of getting to the journey of how I got to up to BTI.
Yeah.
But it kind of started from, freelancing to having some nice, decent accounts. And then eventually I landed Rogers as an account. And when I landed Rogers, I was all in. I was like, okay, now I need to turn this into a real agency. Brought on 2 partners and started my very first agency. It wasn't Dhupar Communications, it was just more freelancing. Then MH said Design Communications was launched with 2 partners, and we had Rogers, we had a few other accounts. We brought in Highland Farms and other accounts into it. But then I found after 5 years of that agency, we were getting pigeonholed, and we weren't getting those opportunities of doing digital projects. And now we're like in 1999. And around that time, my second son was born. And I was realizing that I was burnt out. I was only 31. I feel like I was burnt out. And I didn't enjoy the way we were, working. It was like nonstop, even on weekends. Clients and that was another lesson learned right there. Clients always want things yesterday. And there's never enough time to get it done. So we have to control that. We have to control, that sort of appreciation of time. And we have to also make them understand, deadlines as well. So, there was a lot of learnings from that. So when I launched, I sold that agency and started BTI originally as Bite This Inc. So BTI stands for Bite This Inc. Bite with a Y. And Bite This Inc. went out with that communication that we are digital first. And this is 1999. So we were the leaders in the space. There weren't digital agencies the way they, at that time. There was very few of us. So Bite This Inc. was born. We did total brand management. I already had a reputation of doing traditional marketing, traditional design, but now we were able to get involved in more the digital work and own the brand from start to finish. Had tons of success, and then eventually, after our 10th year, I said I grew up and changed it to BTI and spoke to what we do, bringing innovations to brands. So it became BTI Brand Innovations, and the company was built with that thinking of family first, right? When I exited, I was burnt out. When I started BTI, it was around, I want to build a culture where everyone has an opportunity to go home at a decent time, because clients always want things yesterday. There's never enough time. We have to set those expectations, right? So let's figure out how we really set the expectations properly with our client partners. So that was the thinking behind it. And that's why we've been able to keep people here long term, because it's very rare to find an agency where you tell people, hey, it's 6 o'clock, go home. Go do something else. Go play a guitar. Go play drums.
Right.
Go to the gym. Go have some fun. Go drink some wine. You love wine. Do something that keeps you happy. So when you come in the next day, you're giving me 110%. So that was the shift. That's what's allowed me to, really live life with intentionality and freedom and live it on my terms. It's been fantastic. So BTI, we're a fully integrated creative agency, does sales and marketing, and it's just, I have a great life where I call it work-life integration. So it's not, I don't look at it as work. It's a part of who I am. It's my identity. I've integrated into it, and I've made sure that I'm home at a decent time, and I've been a involved father, right? I didn't want to be the entrepreneur that looks back 25 years from the date that we started, and this is our 25th anniversary of BTI now.
Right. Yeah.
I didn't want to look back and say I was not involved in my kids' lives. I was very involved in my kids' lives. I have a fantastic relationship with them, and I'm very, very proud to say that it was not a business that I was trying to build into something very scalable. It was a lifestyle business. Some people look at that and say that's a bad thing. That's a great thing, right? It is a fantastic thing. I see lifestyle business as allowed me to be very balanced, right? Again, going back to the big names, I talked about Bezos,
Yep.
Jobs, and Musk, Elon Musk. When I look at their career, their life, they are amazing, amazing visionaries and have built some amazing businesses. But when I look at them personally and their family life, I see nothing but pain and hardship. And what is the most important thing to me is family.
Well, and I love when you talk about work-life integration. I think it's a wonderful foundation for a different perspective. And yes, as an entrepreneur, I know when I was growing, my first real business when I got out of carpet cleaning, and we were filling, millions of bottles a year for major retailers and cosmetics and whatnot. I mean, you get into second and third shifts and you're like, you're there. But what I did, and I didn't think about it until now, is work-life integration, is we lease space sort of at the edge of where both my business partner and I lived. So we could get to work in about 10 minutes. So I could come home for dinner with the kids when they were little, see them. And if I had to go back, I went back. But I never thought about it as work-life integration. I just thought about it as, to your point, I wanted them to know who I was. I wanted to be a part of their life. So I love the way you articulated it. And it's reframed a lot of the things in my mind, actually, that I did without thinking about it that way.
Yeah.
Ikigai. How do you discover your life purpose? What is that?
So Ikigai is a Japanese concept, which means, well, Iki stands for life and then Gai, purpose. So it's the meaning is a reason for being, right? So it represents the intersection of, think of four circles. One is what you love, and these four circles are intersecting what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you can be paid for. When all four of these elements align, you find a sense of purpose that not only fulfills you personally, but also benefits the world around you, right? So my own Ikigai has evolved over time. Initially, it was simply, I would say that any person I interact with each day, my Ikigai would be to bring a smile onto each and every person I interact with each day, right? Something simple. It's achievable.
Right.
It's not like I'm quantifying it by saying I need to make 1 billion people smile. Well, I'm going to make everyone I interact with smile. That's my purpose, my goal. So I used to say it something as simple as that. And I found a lot of joy in connecting with people and brightening their day. Because people are walking around with their heads down. They want to be noticed. It's amazing when you just walk by somebody randomly and say, "Hey, how are you?" And they just smile, right? Because you notice them. It's so important. So it started with just that small gesture, but then it grew into something a lot more powerful and deeper through my kind of growth personally and learnings. My older son is gay, and I had to learn a lot and grow a lot with accepting him. And we have a great relationship, but I probably did not handle it well when he first came out. So to me, understanding that community was really important to me. So I'd done a lot
Right.
of self-reflection and growth and appreciating the LGBTQI plus 2A. I get so confused sometimes, but the LGBTQ community. But even more than that is knowing that I'm of the BIPOC, of being being brown, being Indian, comes with its own challenges, right? And then over the years, since the last several years, especially since the lockdowns, there were so many issues in the US with Black Lives Matters. So all of this thinking around the BIPOC, the LGBTQ, the underrepresented entrepreneur, or even community, not just the entrepreneur, I want to think deeper than that, bigger than that, made me realize that something that I can do, that I can own and use my influence, is to contribute towards building a united world, one conversation at a time. So that is my ikigai now, right? It evolved into that just from that goal of I don't understand why there has to be so much hatred, right? I just don't understand that. I don't understand why we can't just have conversations and listen from a place of curiosity. We don't have to agree with what the person's viewpoint is or what they're sharing, but we can try to understand their perspective. And that's what it's all about. So I'm doing these dinners, I call them breaking barrier dinners, which actually came out of an EO member out of New York was doing them, and he exposed me to it. And as a result, I've been hosting them once a month. I bring 8 entrepreneurs together because I believe entrepreneurs have the power to change everything. And I bring 8 entrepreneurs together of very diverse mindsets, diverse cultures, diverse sexualities, genders, and make sure there's some great different viewpoints happening. We sit down, we have a picked topic in advance. So a topic is chosen, and then we have a curated conversation, or answering 3 key questions, and it's all timed and so on. But the key thing about this is that we're breaking down walls, we're bringing people together, and we're building that sense of unity through a shared understanding by hosting these dinners. So that's what I'm doing to live my ikigai of contributing towards building a united world, one conversation at a time. Now, anyone can do this. Anyone can sort of discover their ikigai. It just starts from a place of curiosity and self-reflection. Ask yourself, what makes you truly happy? What am I really great at or good at? What does the world need that I can contribute to? And when you discover all those intersections, life just takes on a deeper meaning, and your purpose doesn't have to be grand. Like mine isn't grand. Like I said, I'm contributing towards building a united world, one conversation at a time. I'm not saying I'm going to build a united world. Well, oh my God, can I actually do that? Is that actually achievable by myself? I need some help around
Right.
that. Yeah, just needs to be authentic to who
No,
you
I
are.
understand it. Yeah.
I was just saying, it just needs to be authentic to who you are and what you can offer the world.
Yeah. And I think, as you describe your purpose, I think you hit on one of the most important things is just start somewhere. If you can impact 1 people, 4 people, 8 people, just start somewhere. You're right. You don't have to change the world. And with 8 billion people, there's a pretty good chance that no one individual will, but you can bring so much joy, so much happiness, so much passion to the individuals around you just by recognizing them the way you do and sharing dinner and discussing it. So Parveen Dhupar, BTI Brand Innovations, founder of BTI Brand Innovations. It's been a pretty quick 30 minutes. It's been a cool conversation. And just before we end, I'd like to ask you one last question, and that's about what is the voice grant program?
Oh, okay. Well, I shared a little bit about the Ikigai, right? So when I talk about
Hmm.
my goal of uniting the world, um, being that underrepresented entrepreneur myself, I felt like underrepresented entrepreneurs need a little bit more support. So what the Voice Grant is that we're giving up to $25,000 worth of creative services, marketing service, not just creative marketing services,
Hmm.
uh, to startups and scale ups of underrepresented entrepreneurs that are female entrepreneurs, under 25, BIPOC entrepreneurs, and the LGBTQ entrepreneurs. Those that are very much, have a goal. They're somewhat funded. It's not just someone with an idea, and we're there to kind of help them. We're here to empower them with their brand, help them with building out their brand strategy, doing their creative, supporting them in any way they need. So they go onto our website. There's a voice grant page. They apply, and we're doing this for 12 entrepreneurs a year. So they have to match it too, by the way. So when we're giving them $25,000 worth of services, they also have to put in another $25,000 worth of service of cash. So $50,000 worth of work for 25,000.
Excellent.
It could be $20,000 worth of work, and we give them $10,000 as a grant. So we're just doing this because we want to support these underrepresented entrepreneurs.
Parveen, wonderful conversation. You are helping people around you. You are helping people that need help, and you're certainly bringing about change. And it's just a pleasure speaking to you on air this time, on Say Hi to the Future.
Thank you so much. It's been a great conversation. Thank you, Ken, and wish you all the best with Say Hi to the Future.